Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thank you, Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh Yawar, for joining us in our podcast. Alhamdulillah, we're honored to have you. Um, Sheikh Yawar, you have a lot of experience in many different fields, so we're looking forward to an excited episode where we can learn from a lot of your experiences and backgrounds. So to really get started off, um, you started off your career, your journey in the plantation industry, and you then embarked on this entrepreneurial journey, and you basically switched from employment into entrepreneurship. So I would really like to start off by asking um, your story about how that happened and why and how did that lead into entrepreneurship.
All right, Jazakallah khair. I was actually, the plantation job was my second job. My first job was in Guyana, in South America, in the bauxite mining industry. So I was in bauxite mining. I was not a miner. I was actually running the town, the mining town. So I was the assistant administrative manager. The administrative manager was a man called Nick Adams, and Nick was busy with other things. So he basically put me in charge of the thing. And so I was in charge of all the back up to the mining. So I was in charge of literally running the whole town, without executive authority over any of the department heads. So that was the spin on it. There was a head of engineering, there was a head of mining, there was a the head of the commissariat, and so on and so forth. But all of them, how they worked with each other, how they worked in their own departments, if they had problems to be solved, if they had conflict to be resolved, and so on and so forth, they would call me. So I was overall in charge of that. I was part of the policy making meetings, every single one of them. But I actually had no formal authority over them. So I think this was a phenomenal learning in terms of how to influence without authority, which I think is the number one skill that one should try to learn in any field of life. The second thing which happened in Guyana was that the mining industry there, which was called Guyana Mining Enterprise, which was the nationalized version of Alcan Reynolds. Alcan is the Canadian bauxite aluminum company, and Reynolds is the American company. And these two had their mines in Guyana, Alcan Reynolds. And when Forbes Burnham became the president of Guyana, he took it on a socialist path and nationalized sugar, rice, and mining, bauxite mining, which were the three major industries in Guyana. So this became Guyana Mining Enterprise. Now, as a result of that, it had a union called the Guyana Mine Workers Union, GMWU. Guyana Mine Workers Union was a single union representing all the workers in the company. So there was no other union that people could join. There was just one union, communist union, and extremely strong, politically linked. Just to give you an example, the president of the union was the Minister of Labor. So which is like a clear conflict of interest in any other situation, but in Guyana it was not seen as a conflict of interest, which meant that if there was a dispute between the management and the union, and if that went for arbitration, it went to the Minister of Labor, and the Minister of Labor was the president of the union. So effectively, we dealt with the General Secretary of the union, who was one absolutely wonderful man called Stephen Lewis. Stephen Lewis's son is still in Guyana in the Mine Workers Union, and he is the big boss there in the union now. But Stephen Lewis was the person that I dealt with. And believe me, I was like 20 something. I was like 22 or 23, and I learned from these people. I consider Stephen Lewis to be one of my great teachers in human relations. Even though he was a union leader, he was, ostensibly on the opposite side of the table from me, but amazing leadership qualities. Just to give you an example, one of the things of the Guyana Mine Workers Union was that at the drop of a hat, they would go on strike. So no matter what happened, just tools down, we are on strike. And it could be anything. I mean, somebody said something wrong, somebody, yelled or cursed or whatnot. So, and then we would go into what was called terms of resumption settlement meetings. Terms of resumption settlement meetings. Now, these meetings were literally, in my view, they were designed as endurance tests. So one time we had this tools down, and then the union people got together and so on and so on. Stephen Lewis came. He used to be in Georgetown, so it took him it was about 200 miles. So he came, it takes him time to come there. He comes there. Then he said, okay, so we will now meet at 8 p.m. The unwritten rule was, if the management said, how can you start a meeting at 8 o'clock in the night? Then they would say, well, the management is not interested in resuming work. So sorry, it's not our fault. So we could not say, as management, we could not say no to any of these kinds of conditions. So the meeting starts at 8 p.m., goes on till about 2 a.m., and at 2 a.m., Stephen Lewis says, okay, let's take a break. We'll meet at 4 in 2 hours. So we come back again. Literally just go to the toilet or whatnot, get a cup of coffee, come back 4 a.m. The meeting goes on till 12 o'clock, and then he says we take a lunch break for an hour, and we come back again at 1 o'clock, and it goes on. And this, the longest I had once was a straight 72-hour stretch of these meetings. So you can imagine, it was literally a way of physically and emotionally and mentally breaking you down, and it was an endurance test, and we didn't break down. I mean, we stuck to that. So in one of these meetings, and now Stephen Lewis was a huge big man, massive individual, and he had a voice to match, and he would talk endlessly. He would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, all at that volume. And imagine you are sitting in this closed room. That was my first introduction to surround sound. What surround sound is. Stephen Lewis's voice would bounce from the walls, from the ceiling, and come up from the floor, and you could feel the vibration. It was so enormous. The man's presence was huge, and his voice was huge. And to listen to that, like for example, in that 72 hours, at least to me, it felt like 70 hours was Stephen Lewis talking. It was like this. So this was going on. So one time this was going on and on and on, and we had come to some level of settlement. The meeting would have, it looked like it was now going to end up in for us to start work again. And but Stephen Lewis continued. One of the young guys with us, he said, man, Stephen, let me talk sense, man. Let me talk sense. The moment he said, let me talk sense, means let us talk. That's the Guyanese patois, Creole. So the moment he said that, Stephen Lewis stopped in mid-sentence. And he turned to him. He said, why I say, boy? He said, let me talk sense. You say, me not talking sense now? Me talking nonsense? And I thought, I held my head, I said, oh my God, now we are going to go back into this loop. And suddenly, my boss, Nick Adams, Nick said, Stephen, you not hear what the boy say, man? The boy said, let me talk sense, meaning dollar and cent. He said, let me talk money. He not say sense nonsense. He say money, dollar, cents. Stephen Lewis, I could literally see Stephen Lewis' face like saying, About an hour later, meeting finished, everything came out. As we came out of the meeting, literally Stephen Lewis catches this assistant administrative man. This is a management man. Stephen Lewis catches him by the back of his neck and he says, Nick Adams, he saved your life and he saved we life. If Nick Nabi say what he say, we not done with this meeting yet. He said, you know what you said and I know what you said. Nick turned it around and thank God Nick turned it around. Huh? Can you believe it? Now imagine the amazing lesson in leadership this is. Here is a man who is an opponent. He's got the management by the you know what. With this one word, he could have taken us into another loop, but he really doesn't want to do that. And Nick Adams gave him an honorable way of coming out of that. Right? Then not only did the man take that honorable way, but he took his time, he took time out to teach a lesson to a young guy who was from the opposite side. Amazing people. So this is where I started. I started in Guyana. I was there from 1979 to 83. 5 years. So I was in the mining town. So I learned, the leadership, literally leadership from the ground up. Getting not just my hands dirty, but my head and my face, everything. Now in Guyana also what happened was that when I went there, and this is long before global warming and environmental protection and whatnot, we didn't even know the words. But what we did know was, I went there and I saw that what they used to do was to you see what they would do is, this is bauxite, so aluminum ore. So you would have the prospecting parties, the mining parties going out into the bush, into the Amazonian rainforest, and they would dig drills, they would drill down, deep down, hundreds of meters down, and they would bring up a core of soil. This soil would then go to the lab, it would be analyzed, and when they found the bauxite deposit, so they would map all this, so it would be all on a map. So if you look at the map, you would see the whole forest, and they would say, okay, this is the bauxite deposit, so many square miles of that. And then they used to do what is called open cast mining, which is they would cut the forest, and in this case not even cut the forest, they would just send in huge D9 Caterpillar bulldozers, and they would just push the forest. So this beautiful, fantastic hardwood trees, and of course everything else. Whatever could run away, the rest of it, what could not run away, would die. So just push the forest into huge mounds, and those mounds would be set alight. So you would have these fires burning for months together with clouds of smoke, and they get to the bare earth, and then they would send in the diggers and the dragline cranes and so on and so on. It's like just digging a huge, massive hole in the ground. And by massive, I mean, the hole is like, it's like you put a whole city into that hole. So huge holes. So when I saw this thing, I thought to myself, what a colossal waste of timber. It's perfectly good timber. Hardwoods and so on. We had greenheart, wamara, different kinds of South American trees. So I said to my boss, I said to Nick Adams, I said, Nick, why don't we set up a sawmill and send in crews and at least log the trees, the good trees. We take them out, we use the wood for some useful purpose before they because right now they're just burning that wood. I mean, it's good wood. It's like teak wood and stuff like that. There's no teak there, but just to give you a comparison. And we're just burning it. And it's not even burning as in people are using it for firewood. This is just burning, khalas. It's just, in the air. So, yeah, so I said, so Nick said, give me a project report. So I made a whole project report, buying of equipment. We bought another machine to extract trees from the forest and so on. And then a sawmill, the actual band saws and the whole thing, the whole mill project report. I did the whole report. I gave it to Nick. He got it approved, and he said, "Here it is, and you run it." So I said, "I run it. I just gave an idea." He said, "Yeah, price of giving good ideas. It's yours. Run it." So I said, "Who does my job?" He said, "You do your job." So I do my current job plus now, So they say the price of good work is more work. So the price of a good idea is that it gets loaded onto you. So anyway, I was not complaining. So I then got to spend hours and hours and hours in the bush because I would be gone on my sawmill work. So I had a yellow Land Rover Jeep in which I would have chainsaw, I would have chains, I would have ropes, which is wire ropes. I would have camping equipment. I would have a stove, cooking equipment. I had a shotgun, obviously, because we were in the bush, so we needed, a weapon. I would have fishing equipment, fishing nets, you name it. So I and a friend of mine called Peter Ramsey. So Peter and I were partners. Peter was the mill manager, so I made him mill manager. So Peter and I would be there. We'd go into the bush prospecting with the Amerindians, go to different trees, see where they are, whatnot. Then I would come back and do my regular work. So it was like a, almost 24 hours kind of job. So I did that. I did this whole thing for 5 years. And then on the weekend we used to go fishing and hunting. So we would go up. I had a flat bottom boat with an Evinrude outboard motor. So Peter and I would go. We put a big ice box in the middle of the boat. We would have fishing lines and nets and whatnot. We would go. We would camp on the riverbank. We would fish. We would cook there in the sand with the fish. We would eat. We would sleep in hammocks in the night, and then we would get up in the next morning and we fish some more and spend 2 days out in the bush. And then we would come back with whatever we had shot or fished, and then distribute it all over to all our friends and whatnot, and keep some for ourselves. So this was my life. For five years I did that, and then I came to the tea plantation industry, in which I worked for 10 years. So tea, coffee, cardamom, rubber in South India, in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, again working with communist unions. So I had this 16 years of hands-on experience of running profit centers, of manufacturing, and of, I don't even know about what kind of titles to put on all this, because it's a very, very varied kind of experience, including, of course, dealing with very difficult labor unions. And the good thing was that I learned from them, they learned from me, hopefully. And not only was I able to deal with these unions, but I made very good friends. So, because when I was leaving my last job, when I finally left the plantation and decided to become an entrepreneur in 1993, the president of the Communist Union, Marxist Union in Kerala, my staff were giving me a farewell. So there was a staff function, and then suddenly the union guy drove up in his car. So the head clerk, my office assistant, he said, what happened to him? Why is he here today? What's wrong with him? The man came in. His name was Perumal. Perumal came in, and Perumal said, I am here in my personal capacity, not as the head of the union, because he said we are not permitted to participate in any farewell function of any manager. He said, but I am here in my personal capacity because we cannot let this man go without saying something. And then he gave a speech, and he had everybody in tears. All of us were weeping. And he said how much how this man was. He said we fought, but he was always on the truth. He never lied. He never deceived us. And we greatly appreciate that. Amazing thing was, we locked out the estate, in the rubber estate in Kerala, border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu in Kanyakumari district. We had to lock out 15 days. So when we locked out, my boss called me and he said, your life is in danger. Your wife and you are there. Move to Trivandrum. I go and stay in the hotel there, big 5-star hotel. They go stay there. at the company's expense, but I don't want you to be on the estate. So I said, that's okay, but what about my assistants? I had 4 assistants. He said, no, their life is not in danger. I said, no, sorry, I don't leave. I said, I will not leave unless we all go together, or I'm staying here. But he said, they'll kill you. I said, sure, no problem. Let's see who kills me. So we had our assistants move into our house. All of us lived together in one place. We had a big bungalow, so we all stayed together, ate together, and so on. And then I used to go patrolling in the estate by myself, just to check everything, the factory, and so nobody's sabotaging and so on. So one day, as I'm walking, I see 2 people following me at a distance. I turned around, talked to them. They said they are from the union. So I said, why are you following me? They didn't say. They said, orders, union orders. I said, what the hell union orders? You are on the estate, you are on my property, and why are you following me? They didn't say anything. So anyway, I finished my round, I came back. Those days, no mobile phones and stuff, we didn't have. So we came back to the office, I called the union office. I said, can I speak to Mr. Perma? He said, yes. So I said, there are 2 guys, they say you are union guys and they are following me. He said, yes, we sent them. I said, for what? He said, for your safety. I said, what do you mean my safety? He said, because of the lockout, there are people who want to kill you. And we know that you refused to leave the estate when your boss called. I said, how the hell do you know that? He said, we know. He said, you refused to leave the estate when your boss called. And also it so happened the district superintendent of police was a good friend of mine. He was an old student of mine from the National Police Academy. He called me, he said, I will station a battalion of armed police on the estate. I said, no policeman will come to my estate. I said, this is between me and my workers. I don't want anyone else involved. So the SP said, you're crazy. He said, they will kill you. I said, nobody will kill me. My life is in the hand of Allah. So the union leader tells me, your boss told you to leave the estate, you did not leave the estate, like every other manager does. He said, the police chief called you and said he will station a battalion of armed police. You refused. He said, we have an issue with you, we will deal with that, but we do not want any harm to come to you. So we have sent our people. Huh? Ajib. At least to my knowledge, I do not know of anyone in the history of industrial relations where the union looks after the manager. But they did that. And of course we did the settlement and so on and so forth. And the whole thing was over. So this man came at the farewell and he said, this man, we cannot let him go without saying something about him. So alhamdulillah, I am very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these were the lessons I learned. So then in 1993, I decided, or 93 actually, I decided to go up. I had been wanting to become an entrepreneur and go into the area of leadership development consulting for a long time, almost 10 years before. So about 93 means from about 82, 83, I had this thing, I wanted to do that. I love teaching. I saw people doing that. I saw how other people get help when you are there to give them some good advice and so on. So I decided, okay, this is a good line of work. Let me do that. And by the end of 93, alhamdulillah, one of the outcomes of building good teams is that you make yourself redundant. Now, if you make yourself redundant, then so people always they promote, best leadership is where the team works on its own independently and you become redundant. That is true, but then you should have somewhere to go. If there is no scope for development in your own company, then you are stuck. You made yourself redundant, now what do? You go back and interfere with the team, you destroy a good team. So I decided that there was no space for me to go up in the company. There all kinds of organizational politics garbage. But anyway, long and short of it is that there was no place for me to go up in the company, so I decided I'm going to go out. So I left, and in 1994 I set up my independent company called Yawar Baig and Associates. But I had been actually from 83 to 93, I was actually doing consulting independent, along with my job. So I negotiated this deal with my organization. I said that I want to become a consultant eventually, so I want to consult. I had 35 days of annual leave. I negotiated another 15 days of leave without pay. And I spent that time, first of all, learning how to train. We started with training before consulting. We started with training. So learning how, because there is no actual course of how to do a leadership training course. I don't know now if there is one, but for at least that time there wasn't, and there wasn't for literally decades after that. So I would contract with my friends who were leadership trainers and say, literally I would say, look, please, will you allow me to come and sit in your class? So they said yes. Now, problem was, I was sitting on a hilltop, one of the most beautiful places in the world, in the Anamalis, in Tamil Nadu district in South India. And that was only tea, coffee, cardamom, beautiful jungles, elephants and stuff. There's no training happening there. So the training would be happening in the cities. So I would have to go from where I was to, say, Chennai or to Hyderabad or to Bombay or to Delhi. Now from where I was, it was literally 24 hours to get to any other place in India, because I had to travel 4 hours by road down to the railway station. Then from the railway station I take a train to wherever I'm going, and that whole thing was 24 hours. I could not take a plane because I had no money. So I was absolutely poor like a dormouse. So when they told me you can come and train, that's all it meant. How you get there, where you stay, what you eat, that is not their problem. They are only allowing me into their class, and that was a big favor. So I have stayed in hotels where you would not kennel a dog. Right? I used to travel by third class train. In India in those days, third class train meant a wooden plank for a seat. That seat did not even have a cushion on it. Just a wooden plank. Slats. Well, not even a full plank, slats. So you sleep on that, and you don't sleep too soundly, because your bag is under the seat, and you sleep soundly and you are minus your bag. So you have one eye on the bag, you sleep there, and then you get up in the morning, you go, and wherever, I mean, if I had friends, I would stay with a friend, I sort of freeload on them, but obviously there's no guarantee of having a friend in every city you go to. So stay in the cheapest possible hotel. That's why I say, the cheap possible hotel is cheap, but you know what you get for that money. That's what I did for 10 years. In the meanwhile, I also, one of my very, very good friends, Pratik Roy, he said, get an MBA. No matter what else you do, get an MBA. So I said, okay. Now, how do you get an MBA? MBA is a 2-year full-time course. Now, I could not afford that. I had got married in 1985. I had a wife. I had to, take care of her. So there was no way I could take 2 years off to do a full-time MBA. So what do? I researched, and I found that and Pratik told me, he said, no matter what you do, get an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, IIMA, which is the institute that was set up by Harvard Business School at the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, and it is the #1 business school in India. Return on investment in terms of, I'm talking about today, I checked those dates from Fortune magazine today. ROI from IIMA is superior to ROI from Stanford, Harvard, and from Kellogg's, right? Today. So it absolutely, people say those who can't get into the Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, they go to Stanford. So it is like that. It's a hugely competitive place, and you had to, just getting in was a qualification. So they had a executive management course, which was half the time, but the same fee. So I applied for that. I had to go through the mill, but I got it. Now when I got in now, I had no money. So I had to pay the fees. Now what do I pay? So my salary at that time, when I'm talking about, my salary was 12,000 rupees, Indian rupees, per year. It was 1,000 rupees a month. So 12,000 per year. The fee for the course was 35,000 rupees. So it was 3.5 years salary. Right? So I said, now, how am I going to find the money? And so I went to the company. I said, can you loan me the money? So the company said, no, we'll loan you 50% of the money. I said, what will I do with 50% of the money? I need the whole money. They said, sorry, that's not our problem. And they said, they're very nice people. So they said, you can take your normal annual leave of 1 month. Rest of the time, we will deduct it from your salary. So it will be leave without pay. So the rest of the months I spent, no salary. They said, we are doing you a favor, we won't sack you, we will keep you on lean, meaning that you will still be on the rolls of the company. People think life is easy. People think that, you want something, you have to pay for it, brother. Believe me, there's no shortcut in this life. You want something, you got to pay for it. So I wanted this MBA. So I said, I am single-minded focused. I was married. The course started 1 month after I got married. 1 month after. I got married in March 1985. The course started April 1985. 1 month later. Now, I had to stay in the hostel in IMA because there was no other way. I mean, I could have taken a flat in Ahmedabad and stayed, but no money. So my wife 1 month after we got married, my wife went off to her parents, and they were in the UK at that time, in Leeds. No WhatsApp, none of these, video calls and stuff. A trunk call costs a lot of money in those days, and you had to book the call, go to the post office, stand there in the night and yell your guts out for somebody to hear you for 3 minutes. Not worth it. So I didn't see her until I got back from the course. You have to pay. So what did I do? I said, okay, so if the company is going to give me only half the money, so I took that half money as a loan. Then the company said, we're giving you this money, but you have to sign a contract with us to say that after you come back, you will serve for 3 years. Now, this was illegal. I mean, it's not even legal. You cannot force an employee or anyone to sign a one-sided contract. They are not saying they will not sack me in 3 years. They are not saying we will guarantee your job, we will not sack you for 3 years. They said, no, you have to work for 3 years. But obviously, if we want to sack you, we can sack you. Now, I wasn't going to get sacked, but I'm just saying that it's a one-sided contract, which legally speaking is illegal. I signed the contract, I took that half money. For the rest of it, I sold my car. So, that's how I got enough money to actually go to do this course. I did the course, came back, served for 3 years, and then I left and started my own company. And when I started my own company, that was in Bangalore, because Bangalore was the head of the place where all the multinationals had just come in. So that was the place where the market was. Obviously, it was also not the the place where everyone was there. All the companies were. But I was. You remember, I told you I came out of manufacturing and I came out of tea and coffee plantations and so on. So I had no network among HR and training professionals in Bangalore or anywhere in India. Like anywhere else, it's not what you know, or rather it's like who you know matters more than what you know, that kind of stuff. So you needed a network, and the only way you can get a network is if you are in that line. And I never did a full-time HR job, I never did a full-time IR, what used to be called industrial relations job, ever in my life. HR, even the term wasn't invented when I first went into industry. But later on they started talking about HR. So we said, what is that? They said, well, this is IR in a different way. So it is industrial relations. But my industrial relations was as a line manager, as a profit center head. It was not as an industrial relations manager sitting there filling forms and paying for vouchers, payment vouchers and approving payments for whatever, tea, coffee or something. My job was actually hiring, firing, whatnot. That's why I wrote the book called An Entrepreneur's Diary. I wrote a book called Hiring Winners, all of this. So the point is that that was my job. So I had no actual network as such. So even though I knew what to do, I had learnt leadership training, and which is complete the whole work. How to design a course, run a course, negotiate. All this I learned hands-on from my friends who were kind enough to allow me to be with them through those years, those 10 years. That whole period from 1983 to 1994, I did not take one single day's vacation. Every weekend I worked. Throughout my vacation time I worked. Didn't take any vacation, not one single day's vacation. No vacation, no holiday, no nothing. All the money was spent on books and on training and on paying for fares to go to attend training courses to learn how to train. So no frills, nothing. And of course my wife was and continues to be an absolutely huge support. And without her support, none of this was possible. And I'm not saying that to be polite or anything. This is the actual reality. Alhamdulillah. So I always say Allah Subhanahu wa Taala on His Arsh, my wife on the first. So it's two great support. Alhamdulillah. So the thing was that I was there, but then what happened was one of my friends he called me. He said he used to work for a company called Bull, which is a European computer company. So PSI Bull. So he said, we have a manager who is American, but he's Gujarati. So he is Indian, but born and raised in America. So he's actually American. He can't speak Gujarati or Hindi or anything. But he is Indian, so he looks Indian. And he says he is having a lot of trouble with his direct reports, and can you help? So I said, sure. I mean, my theory throughout my life is anyone asks me something, I always say yes. Do I always know what I'm saying yes to? No. Do I always know what the solution will be? I know. But I take the risk, and I've always learned you cannot win unless you take a risk. And risk means there is a danger of failure. And that danger of failure becomes your greatest motivator so that you do your absolute best to ensure you don't fail. So I said yes. So here in the meeting, I went to see this guy. And this guy, he told me this is what is happening and so on and so on. So I told him, I said, look, why don't we start from here? Why don't you allow me, I said, I request you, allow me to sit in to one of your meetings. And let me see what exactly you are doing. I want to see the actual interaction between you and your direct reports. And then I'll tell you, if I can help you or not or what. He said, yeah, makes sense, no problem. So his next meeting, he called me. I was sitting in the back. And I saw him interacting and so on. And I figured out what's to be done. So I said to him, my proposal to you is that let's do a 3-day off-site leadership program. And I'm going to, put you guys through the hoops, different exercises, games, whatnot, and some counseling and stuff. And this will, inshallah, this will solve your problems. So he listened to all that. He said, makes sense. And then he said to me, how do I know this will work? So I said, look, at this stage, even I don't know if it will work. But I want to say this to you, one thing, which is that if you allow me to do this, if you are not happy with the result, don't pay me. Right? Don't pay me. And I said, I will not question you. All you need to do is to say, I'm not happy, and I walk away. But if you are happy, then I want two things. He said, I said, number one, I want you to pay me. And that was 500 rupees. It was not some, huge amount of money. But those 500 rupees was. So I said, I want you to pay me. And I said, I want you to phone your friends and tell them that I did this work for you and you are happy with me. And if they want something, they must call me. So he said, why are you saying that? I said, because I have no network. And in my view, the best recommendation is from a satisfied customer. And I said, you are a CEO, you will talk to CEOs, not to HR managers. He said, you are a smart guy. He said, I would never have thought of that. I said, well, this is my proposal to you. He said, okay, good, let's do it. And as they say, rest of it is history. And he was true to his word. I mean, we did the 3-day program. He was very happy with it. It really helped him and helped the others and so on. I got some fantastic feedback from everybody. And then he literally sat and he called CEO after CEO. And I started getting calls. And they said, so-and-so called us. I mean, I'm deliberately not mentioning his name because, I don't know. Actually, right now, I don't even know whether the man is still alive or not. But, maybe I hope he's well. But the point is that he called people and he said, I just employed this guy. He did this fantastic job for me. I'm very happy. If you need something, you must call me. And I started getting calls. That's how I got into the leadership development thing. Another one was an Australian company with an Australian head. Now, the contact I got was, I was learning Aikido, the Japanese martial art. My Aikido sensei, my Aikido guru, was a man called Julius Abe. And Julius Abe was Australian also. So Julius used to train me. And Julius said to me, we have an issue in our company and I want to design a course. And Julius said, I will teach Microsoft Workbench and you teach the leadership part of it. And can we put a course together? So I said, sure. So we designed this course together, Julius and I, which is called Leadership for New Managers. And we were going to put this course. But Julius said, you have to sell this to my boss. And my boss is an Australian guy. He said he's very short on patience. This is his number. I said, okay. So I called his boss. And I said, I'm so. His boss says, how much time do you need? So I said, you tell me whatever time you have. He said, 5 minutes. I said, sure. He said, 5 minutes enough for you? I said, sure, enough for me. So I went there. I started. At the end of 5 minutes, I finished. I did my pitch. 5 minutes. I said, 5 minutes over. Thank you very much. He said, no, sit. And we spoke for about 45 minutes to close to an hour. And that started a series of courses we did for months together. We worked in that company. So, it's a question of taking risk. It's a question of having also enough confidence in your own ability, the ability to put things through. And the key thing is the ability or the willingness to do what it takes. It is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, but entrepreneurship is enormously satisfying. And the best thing I like about entrepreneurship is that it has the minimum amount of politics of any organized activity. One of the reasons I left after 16 years, I spent a lot of time in organization, but one of the reasons I left was because I got tired of organizational politics. I said, this is not. I'm no good at politics in that sense because I hate pretenses and I speak the truth. I speak the truth as I understand it. I am not interested in sort of sugarcoating it and so if something is there, it's there. I mean you don't like it. What can I do? So in organizations that is not a great strategy. Let me say this also. So if you are in an organization, that strategy is not always great. I still do it, but now I'm in a position where I actually get paid to do that. So that's a good situation to be in.
Mashallah, that was quite a bit of a journey, mashallah. So if we can say that, like, from your first job itself, you like kind of introduced into this leadership. You're put into somewhere where you have to do this leadership work and kind of develop from there. And then, obviously, mashallah, from all your different experiences, you eventually became an entrepreneur. So, but the question is like, okay, out of all the things that you could have chosen to become an entrepreneur, and you chose like leadership training, that was like something that you became passionate about, probably because your friends were the internet, or so I would ask, like, just as a follow-up question on that, why did you choose like leadership, and what do you think is significant? Why do you think it's important? Like, how did that come into the picture?
Yeah, great question. Why choose leadership training as a career? Couple of reasons. First and foremost, I felt that this is the place which has the biggest gap, the biggest vacuum. Number one. Number two, I felt that this is the place where I can make the highest impact. And I think this has, alhamdulillah, proven, both have been true throughout my life. The first one I'm not happy about, which is that the vacuum still remains in terms of leadership, globally speaking. But I'm very satisfied, alhamdulillah, and very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ability and the possibility for me to impact, the lives of other people. And alhamdulillah, just if you see, I do a daily podcast in the morning, as you know, called the Fajr Reminder. The Google map of that, the global footprint of that, the only place where it is not downloaded is Greenland. And I don't know, maybe that's because Donald Trump wanted to buy it at some point in time. So, the whole world, I can imagine. I mean, this is me, one single little individual sitting in the boondock somewhere, recording something on a phone. That also shows the enormous potential of what is now very ordinary technology. It's not even complicated. It's just something I record on my phone and it goes onto the network. And this is just downloads from our site on Google. I will after this I'll send you that map. You can take a look at it. Literally the whole world. People are listening to the alhamdulillah. I mean, and obviously these are not Muslims. These are people all over the world. So this is the potential of doing something worthwhile, which has real value. And of course, I thoroughly enjoy it. I like people. I like working with people. I like talking to people. I believe I have some skill in terms of getting along with people, convincing people, building great teams, working with people from different backgrounds. I mean, I've worked and I continue to work with people in terms of ages. I mean, diversity in terms of ages, in terms of gender, in terms of work. I work with clergy people. I work with police officers. I work with business executives. I work with business owners. I work with people who are first time into the business. They are poor like dormice, and I work with billionaires, people who are running and who own companies literally worth billions. So, and the huge diversity, right? I mean, so I'm talking in terms of religious background, all kinds of people, and I love doing that. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love my work. I would rather not be doing anything else than this. Alhamdulillah. And a lot of that work, as a matter of fact, today I think I can safely say that about 90% of that work I do pro bono, I do free. Because I work for, especially all my work I do for schools, especially I take no money for it, and for many other organizations. Almost 90% of work I just do it for free. People ask me how do you eat? I said I don't know. Allah is the one who feeds. Ask him how he feeds me. I don't know. Obviously I eat. I need to be on a diet.
Now then, just to take one sentence from what you were saying about how there were two main reasons why you got into this. One is because there's this vacuum of leadership in the world, and you're passionate about it. So the vacuum is still there now. For Muslims specifically, what would your advice be? Like, how can they develop their leadership skills and in relation with how our modern day world is, what advice would you have for them?
Okay, so let me you think what is the advice for Muslims specifically in terms of leadership. Let me go a step back and say what is the advice for anybody in leadership. Whether you want to be a leader, whether you want to teach it, whether you want to practice it. And leadership, again, remember, it's nothing to do with organizations. This is something to understand. Nothing to do with organizations. It is nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do Meaning, it has to do with all of this, but it's not exclusive to that. You can be a leader as a father, you can be a leader as a student in a school, you can be a leader as a mother, you can be a leader as a street sweeper, you can be a leader in any aspect of your life. Even if you do not control anybody, if you're not in any organization, you're not in a political party, you're not a head of state, you can still be a leader and you can still exhibit and work and establish a presence as a leader, right? And obviously you can do that in politics and in administration and in organizations and so on and so forth. Of course, you can do all of that as well. But so for that, what do you need to do? Number one, and this is irrespective of whether you're Muslim or not. Number one, you must invest. You must be clear about your goal. What exactly do you mean by I want to be a leader or I want to be in leadership? What does that mean for you? It means different things for different people, but it's very important to be clear about that goal. Number one. Number two, it's very important to be clear about how to get to that goal. So here's my goal, which is the title, which is the headline. What is the step to get to that goal? This means there has to be a clear strategy on which you are working and metrics. Metrics are critical. Without metrics, you are dead because you don't know whether what you are doing is right or it's not right or is enough or is not enough. Without metrics, there is no hope. So you must have a clear goal, clear strategy, clear metrics. And the number fourth thing is you must be willing to invest. Invest in yourself. Invest your time, your money, your energy, your emotions, and as far as Muslims are concerned, your prayers. I say to Muslims, if you want to be a leader, and this applies actually to anything, if you are serious that you want something and you are not praying tahajjud and asking Allah for that in tahajjud, in sujood, then you don't want it. You do not want it. You're fooling yourself. If I say I want something and I'm not praying tahajjud and making dua for it, I really don't want it. I'm lying to myself. So I don't think it's a great idea to lie to yourself. So it is absolutely critical. If you say you want something, start praying tahajjud. Make tahajjud fard on yourself. Pray tahajjud as if it is fard because it will be for you. If you really are serious about this thing, it is fard on you. So make sure that you are praying tahajjud and that you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever it is that you want from Him. Right? So these four things: clear goal, clear strategy, clear metrics, and the willingness to invest in that. This is what I did in my life, and this is what I continue to do in my life, which is invest. And believe me, this investment is in yourself, right? And this investment it's very simple, but it's regular. You must do it every single day. For example, health. Now, as I'm getting older, I genetically, what's the term for it? I have a tendency towards arthritis because my mother she had arthritis, very severe arthritis. So I have this. So especially after I moved to the United States, because of this cold here in the winter, it became worse. And it got to the point where for my salah, I had to sit in a chair. I could not go down and I could not make sujood and I could not sit in tashahhud. And this really bothered me. I said, no, this is not good. I don't like the idea of sitting in a chair and making sajda and so on. I said, I can't do that. So, usual route to this thing, I went to the doctor, they said painkillers. And after painkillers, when you get to the point of that, then we'll give you injections, cortisone injections in your spine, and so on. So I said, no, this is not where I want to go. Some painkillers, sure, because it was like debilitating pain, but I said, I am not. Nobody is touching my spine. Then what? So what I then started to do was, with osteoarthritis, which is what I have. And this is not a medical analysis I'm giving you, I'm telling you what I did. Movement is critical. So I started walking. Now, for almost about 6 months, I walk 6 miles a day, every day, except for Fridays. Fridays I take off, but 6 days a week I walk 6 miles a day. And I spend about 30 to 45 minutes in the gym with weights. Alhamdulillah, I am now able to sit peacefully in tashahhud and I am able to make sujood without any problem. That whole stiffness and so on has gone away. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, alhamdulillah, first of all, to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and second thing is to show the meaning of investment. Investing in yourself, in your own health, right? Controlling your food intake, for example. I eat 1 meal a day, one time in 24 hours.
Subhanallah.
That's it. And alhamdulillah, I'm fine. I mean, I even with 1 meal a day, according to me, I still need to lose weight. I lost a lot of weight, but I still need to lose some more weight. But I feel fit. I feel fine. I walk, and quite literally at my age today, health of my heart, the amount I walk and exercise and so on and so forth is better than somebody half my age. People, many people of my age, they can't make sajda. They have to sit in a chair. They can't stand for a while. All of these are lifestyle things. There's nothing to do with illness. It's just lifestyle. What you eat and how much you move. So my message to myself is: exercise 3 times what you do today and eat 1/3 of what you eat today. 3 times more and 1/3. Now, is it easy?
Yeah.
Is it easy? It's not easy. In the winter here, -4 Celsius temperature, I am on the street, walking. I was not born here. I don't have inherent resistance to cold or something. You have to take the pain. There's no gain without pain. So you have to take the pain. But the results, alhamdulillah. So I have a motivation for myself. Whenever I'm feeling lazy, I have a keyword. My keyword is wheelchair. So I look at myself in the mirror, I say wheelchair. And next thing you know, I'm walking. Because I don't want a wheelchair. No, not a wheelchair. So if you want to stay on your legs, you want to stay on your feet, walk. Otherwise, wheelchair. So I tell some of my friends, go to Google, get a nice picture of a wheelchair, blow it up, in a nice glossy picture, stick it on your wall so you can see it every day. Believe me that. Yeah, that motivates you like nobody's business, unless you like wheelchairs. But literally.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Something that we all need to, I think, do. Even I personally, saying that there are things that you need to do. But those are the hard things that you need to do, but you still kind of push it away, or you're not really wanting to do what you need to do. So you need to have something like this. If you don't do this, then you'll probably
That's why I say action is the dividing line between wanting and doing. If you really want something, you go to act for it. The only thing that comes without action is death. Just by waiting for it, the only thing which comes just by waiting for it is death. Nothing else. Everything else needs action.
So, mashallah, jazakallah khair. So, I know you probably are busy with other things as well. I'd just like to have a couple more questions for you, Sheikh Yawar. One is that, one of your, knowing through your background is that, you've been into this industry, leadership, transition into entrepreneurship and stuff like that. But I recall that you were not, very conscious about Islam and learning and this, being a more practicing Muslim at that time. And then you probably, in your journey somehow you became more conscious and you started learning more and practicing. How did that come about? What was the turning point?
See, with me, I mean, I don't have trajectory of, I can't say to you, I used to be a drug addict and I used to play a band as a rap artist. Or, I never did any of that. I actually went to madrasa and I qualified as an alim. So so it is not something. Religion is nothing new to me. I did the alimat course while I was in school. So I actually did a formal course. The only thing I did not do was hifz of the Quran. I did not memorize the Quran, which I really regret. That's the only thing I regret in my life. I wish I had memorized the Quran. But my parents were very strongly practicing Muslims. We had Islam all around us at home. We always prayed the 5 prayers. We never missed any of that. Right? We fasted in Ramadan. As I told you, I went to a madrasa. So I mean, that's the
Subhanallah.
yeah. But obviously, through life, I was working in Guyana, this, that, working in the plantation and so on, things become lax, so they became lax as well. And I didn't do too much. But then in 1994, I moved to the US. And there I almost like I got reintroduced to Islam. So it was nothing. Wasn't something new, but it was something like, sort of rebirth kind of thing. So alhamdulillah, and that's when I sort of again restarted formally studying Islam, and I did that, alhamdulillah, and I've been continuing to do that. So that's where I ended up with that. And then what happened there was that because I then started actively practicing, consciously practicing. I mean, I was still praying, but but now the prayer was very different in terms of the quality of the prayer, because and of course I ask Allah to accept it, but quality from my perspective. I'm not saying that prayer was more acceptable to Allah. Allah is the one to decide. But from my perspective, I was praying at least more consciously. My consciousness of who is Allah. I'm standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This kind of stuff became very, very beneficial for me. And then of course, since I already had a critical mindset, I had communicating ability and so on and so forth, and the ability to research and get facts and put things together and so on. All of this came to my aid in terms of, especially in terms of presenting Islam to the outside world, which is not only non-Muslims but Muslims themselves. And I think one of the things which I was able to do, and I continue to do quite successfully, is to be a bridge between the modern world and Islamic theology, because these are like two different worlds, two different planets for most people. So even if they practice Islam, yeah, this is true, but how does this affect my college life? How does it affect my work life? How does it affect my social life or political life? It doesn't affect it. It is something completely different. I go to the mosque, I pray, and then I'm here. This is a different life. That is not how Islam is supposed to be. This is not what Islam came for. Islam came to be used. Islam is the OS, operating system, on which the rest of life must run. Right? The rest of life is like the software. Islam is the OS. But this is not how we use it. We use Islam as something to be done on the weekend. We have this event, so we are a very event-oriented people. You want to go listen to this sheikh or that sheikh. What about 5 times of salah and that quality of that salah? No, we are not bothered with that. So that is something which should change, and alhamdulillah, I hope in my life it has changed. So this is where all of this happens. So now, if you see, literally there are I think a couple of thousand lectures of mine on the internet. So there are all these internet lectures and further reminders and whatnot. All of this came out of this. So my analytical mindset, my ability to communicate and to present Islam in a understandable form to others, this has become very beneficial. And now, since I've been living here in the US from 2019, one of the areas in which I have been working very consciously and alhamdulillah with I think good success is in the area of interfaith relationships. So I have very good relationships with priests, with rabbis, with atheists, and I get invited to their places, to speak there to their people, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of work in terms of presenting Islam to the rest of the world in a way that makes sense to them. And the key thing is, without changing anything in Islam. I mean, I'm not, within quotes, a progressive Muslim. I say that very clearly. I'm a standard, dyed in whatever color you want to call it, traditional Muslim who follows the Quran and the Sunnah strictly, without any apology and without any need to change it. It does not need to be changed. It needs to be practiced. So I'm not a like they say, I'm not a progressive, or I'm not a blah blah whatnot, moderate. There's no moderate. Islam didn't come in different. This is caffeine-free Islam, and this is alcohol-free Islam, and this is sugar-free Islam. No, there is one Islam. The Prophet alayhi salam sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought one deen. He didn't bring several different flavors and say, well, which one do you want? Right? Strawberry flavored Islam, chocolate Islam. No, there is one Islam. And we have the Kitab of Allah, the Book of Allah, and we have the physical manifestation, the physical implementation of that Book of Allah, which is the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is his way, and that's what I follow. As I said, I make no apology about this. I'm not. I am proud of it. I'm confident of it, and I think it's a beautiful system, and it works perfectly for me.
Jazakallah khair. That's actually very, it is quite interesting to see how, you have these different backgrounds, different experiences, skills, and also being quite relevant in today's world, right? Like, because one of the things that many Muslims face as a challenge in today's society is how can you really deal with people of different backgrounds, to explain to them that, for example, like if you're called to a party or a social event, things that may not be very comfortable to Muslims because of the kind of things that they may speak or they may have, like alcohol, for example. And, so there's always this pressure of not being awkward in the social setting, just to get by. But going beyond that and to actually build a relationship, that requires even going further than that. So, you're somebody who has, a lot of into relationships and how you maintain relationships. Or what would you say that and give an advice on that?
Okay. See, one of the most important things as far as relationships is concerned, and here we are talking about interfaith relationships, but the same thing applies to any kind of relationship that you have, is genuine respect and concern for the opposite party. It's not a relationship if you are trying to shove some ideology or shove some opinion down somebody else's throat. There's no relationship there. Right? So genuine respect and concern for the other person. Number one. Number two is also, as far as possible, the ability to see life and see world from their eyes. And many times that is a very different view from how you see it. It's not always the opposite, but it is definitely different. And the reason for that is that unless I can see life through your eyes, I have no clue what you're talking about. When we are having a dialogue, I don't know what you're saying unless I know what you're seeing. And it's not easy, but it's definitely doable to put yourself in somebody else's position and to look at life through their eyes. So if you can do that, and then you have concern for the individual, and of course good listening skills. That's very, very important. This is a skill issue of taking in data, being able to organize that data clearly in your mind. As soon as possible, take some notes on it. Right? You can't always say, "Can I?" While you're speaking, can I turn on my phone and record it? No, people don't like that, and it's not even doable. So you still do that, mentally, and then you make your notes, because notes are very important. Without notes, you will not retain the data after a while. So you do that, and then when you are responding, respond with compassion, respond with understanding, respond with trying to see things from the perspective of the other person. Many times it is things which, if you see it from their perspective, they actually look wrong, because from your perspective it's a different framework. So they look wrong, they look like injustice or something. But then you have to ask yourself, well, maybe but from their perspective, is it injustice? Is it really wrong? So this is how you build relationship. It is mutual respect. It's very, very, very important. It's very important to, and I always say it's not necessary for you to talk to everybody. Right? People in my position, I said, it is not necessary for you to talk to everybody. So if there is somebody who you really feel you can't understand, you don't want to understand. Maybe there are some people who you have a natural antipathy to somebody. You said, I don't like this person. Then don't talk to them. Right? Send somebody else. Let someone else do that. But don't get into a position where you really have no respect for the other person. You really have, you really don't want to stretch yourself. Sometimes it's a lot of stress. So sometimes you don't want to really stretch yourself to get the other person to listen to you. Then do yourself a favor, do the other person a favor. Don't get into that. So it takes investment. Every relationship takes investment. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes contact, and it takes engagement. But it is very, very well worth the effort. This much I'll tell you. At least for me. I mean, I enjoy it. I am happy to do it.
Mashallah, I remember you were saying that in your entrepreneurial journey, there are many times you had to leave and start your business from scratch. You went to the US, you came back to India, you had to start your journey again from scratch. You went to Saudi, you came back. So all of these times it was your network, that your relationship that really helped you out.
Yes.
And it kind of, so the key really is to have that genuine relationship with people without actually trying to make it like, think that you're going to benefit from it or something like that, right? Just a very genuine kind of relationship where it just kind of comes in to help. So I'm sure you're also somebody who is really helping them out, and that's probably why they're also there for you in your terms, in your times of need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, without a doubt. And it won't happen. It's not a one-way street. I mean, this is the very important thing that everyone who's interested really should think about and say, it's not a one-way street. It will happen if you want it to happen, but you have to invest in it. It is not a one-way street of where you take things from people, but you're not willing to give things in return. No, it doesn't work like that.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh Yawar. That was quite amazing. I learned so many things in this session of ours, and I hope I can continue speaking to you. I remember that during our past relationships as well, I've learned quite a lot about entrepreneurship from you, and there's a lot that I was motivated from your writings. And it has helped me in my own journey as well. And I hope that inshallah your journey, your input about leadership, about how to go and get what you really want, and especially your advice for about the tahajjud and then relationships and networking, all of that together, I hope many Muslims, young Muslims, will benefit from. Inshallah, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much.
Just to close, I want to say two things. The
Yes.
importance of reading and the importance of writing, of documentation.
Mm.
These are two absolutely critical things, reading and documentation. So there should be, at any point in time, somebody asks you, what book are you reading? There should be an answer, because you should be reading a book. And I don't care what book that is, as long as there is something that you're reading. So it is very, very important that this is that you do that. And second thing is documentation of your own life. So what have you learned? So documentation of learning. So journal writing, documentation of learning. I think these are two very critical things. Now, out of the journal writing, some books come out and so on and so forth. Alhamdulillah, I've last book published was my 40th book.
Subhanallah.
In 20 years. I mean, this is not a lifelong thing. I actually started seriously writing in 2000. So now 2023. So 21, 22 years, right? And two more books are in the pipeline. So it's but it happens. The thing is that if you do it regularly, you have the material, and then you publish it. And it travels all over the world. I mean, this is my own sadaqah jariyah to myself. Is my books. Which
How does it help as well? Why would you recommend reading and writing? I know
very good question.
it's
Yeah.
a very obvious question, but
No, it's a very obvious question, but it's something which is very important. Reading helps because there are only two ways of learning: either reading or Jibreel alayhi salam comes to you. The angel comes to you with wahi. Now that stopped, so you have to read. Right? there's no angel coming to teach me, so I have to read, and whoever wants to study, they have to read. WhatsApp University is no use. Shorts on YouTube are no use. You have to read. There is a rigor involved in that. You can't watch movies. You can't. Maximum, I will say, maybe listen to an audio of a book, but even that I would not say that is serious learning. Serious learning is reading, right? So you absolutely must. That's how you get wisdom, and it makes an enormous amount of sense, because if you want that same experience in your life, you have to go through the pain that somebody else went through. Why would you do that? If you are going to get that learning without going through the pain, it makes a huge amount of sense. So somebody went through the pain, like I told you, the pain I went through for 13 years, no vacation, nothing, every single penny I had spending on my learning. I know what I went through, right? But I'm now teaching you that for nothing, for free. How will you learn that? If you read the book. So it is very important. If that's the only way that we can learn about people, we can learn we can get their knowledge without going through that pain. It makes a huge amount of sense, number one. Number two, writing, because writing clarifies thinking. Writing puts things in perspective. When you are writing, you get more thoughts. Your thoughts get built on one another when you are writing. So writing is a hugely beneficial exercise to clarify your own thinking and to show a direction to you in your own life. So both are very, very important, reading and writing.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for that. Totally agree on that. It's a way to, when you're reading, you're also kind of benefiting from other people's experiences, and you're learning from all their experiences, all the hard ways that they learned something. You actually get to learn from it. And by writing your own thoughts, it becomes, things start becoming clearer, and what you've been in confusion about starts making sense. Then kind of, alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khairan. It has been an enlightening talk with you. Jazakallah khairan for time, Sheikh Yawar. And may Allah bless your health and your knowledge and all the work that you do and your podcast. MashaAllah. Obviously, there's so much from your experience and your background that we can all learn from. And I hope this is just more like an indication to benefit from your works even more for our audience and for myself as well. Thank you so much. Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Actually, thank you for inviting me. It's thoroughly enjoyable and I hope it's beneficial. Jazakallah. Thank you so much.